Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to your 11th session of Book Clubs Across Borders between Peshawar and Nangarhar. The book that we are discussing today is Iqbal, which is based on the real life story of Iqbal Masih, who was a child labor activist. Before we start our conversation, I would like to ask my colleague, Eamon, to give us a brief summary of the book, and then we will move towards our students to get their views on the book. So Eamon, over to you.
I'm going to give a little summary of Iqbal, the novel. And basically, this is largely a story about bonded labor in Pakistan, and specifically a story of bonded child labor in Pakistan, right? And it is told through the story of one child, Iqbal, and the children surrounding him that are bonded to Hussein Khan, right? Who has a carpet weaving business, and the children are working in his carpet weaving workshop and are bonded to him. Some of them are, everyone's bonded for different reasons as well. And this again is something that is explored in the story. The varied multiple reasons why children end up in these places, right? A lot are there because they want to pay off their parents' debts, right? Again, which is a large theme of the story, right? Where children inherit being bonded, right? And again, a very large question that has to be explored through the story itself, right? And so Iqbal stands out as not just a protagonist, but also as one of the most bold characters in the story, right? He is the child, the character who questions through his actions the larger narrative of bonded labor, bonded child labor, the way bondage works in itself, not just the menial physical work that it requires, but the bondage of the mind, which we'll talk about in a bit as well, right? Which is an extremely important and perhaps the most lethal aspect of bondage in itself, right? So Iqbal is depicted as that one child who's not scared of Hussein Khan, and eventually through his actions, he inspires the children around him to also start questioning these larger narratives of bondage and being bonded, and why are they bonded, and how is it's wrong for them to be bonded regardless of their reasons, and what are the options for them now that they are in the situation, right? And what they should do to escape. So it's a very emotional, but also a very intense story in which Iqbal's experience with Hussein Khan, who he is continuously challenging, right, sort of creates strength and an emotional bond and learning in these children who are bonded, and how it eventually inspires them to escape and gather the courage to escape as well, right? So Iqbal is bonded. Apparently, he's bonded temporarily, but he sort of stays there for a very long time. And he is also in the process in which he's continuously challenging Hussein Khan. He is also punished. So he is imprisoned in a tomb, again, which sort of invokes the theme of torture, and not just physical torture and being physically bonded, but emotional torture and mental torture that is present in bondage, where you are not even allowed to learn anything. You're not even allowed to think anything outside the confines of bondage. And that is what bondage of the mind means. That the children around Iqbal were not questioning bondage, the larger concept of bondage itself. They were not questioning why they were bonded. They were not questioning that bondage is in fact wrong and that they can escape. And most importantly, that they can dream of happiness or freedom. Even thinking about it was not something that they were exposed to or used to, right? But Iqbal's sort of emergence from the tomb and his steadfastness, let's say, inspired them to sort of start thinking of making memories and dreaming of happiness and freedom, right? And this was very, very apparent in how this girl who was part of the entire group of children who were bonded began drawing a kite, which I think operated as a symbol of freedom and happiness in the future, right? So his sort of journey gave them the confidence to start thinking of escaping someday, right? And his story of where he also escapes for a while as well, right? And the information that he brings back about the existence of the Bonded Labor Liberation Front and how they kind of get that flyer from that organization. And then they take a lot of time to start learning to read it. And that in itself, I think, is quite beautiful, that they all made the effort to learn to read just so that they could think of escaping and kind of execute that process, right? And they do so, and eventually Iqbal studies to become a lawyer, but and he sort of even travels the world to create awareness about it all, right? So the larger questions that are explored in this story, therefore, are quite emotionally charged, right? It's about not just being physically bonded and how it's wrong, but it's also about emotional bondage and mental bondage, and how one has to question bondage before escaping in itself, and how that's extremely important. And I think that importance is encapsulated really well in the tragic death of Iqbal, a very tragic and premature death of Iqbal, which draws attention to the fact that his memory and what he had done, which was inspiring other children to start questioning these larger structures, that memory in itself has to be kept alive, and bonded labor has to be questioned, right, before it is sort of dealt with. And I think that is what the entire story in itself is also about, is to never sort of forget how emotional and mental bondage works before physical bondage takes its effects.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Majid Khan and I am from Peshawar. I read this book, Iqbal, written by Francisco. The book is about child labor, and this book tells a story of Iqbal narrated by Fatima, a child slave in Pakistan, bonded to Hussein Khan earlier to pay debt of their parents with 13 other children.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mhammad Khalil and I am a student of class 8B and I live in Peshawar. Iqbal, by whom book is written, is a thin and sad but somehow different from other, and not being afraid of his master Hussein Khan. He is more talented and working quick and accurately than any other child in factory. His friend told him soon he will be free, but he said no to it. But he silently tell Fatima that he will be run away and take her with him. He escaped and fulfilled his promise. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Muhammad Khan from Rana Child Welfare Foundation. While lived in Carpet Factory, he and faced all those hardships, he liberated many other children to free their slavery and achieve his dream to become a lawyer and fought for other rights. This book can be useful way to introduce students to the important topic, child labor is it exists in Pakistan. It is amazing to learn how much one determined person can change it.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Khan. I live in Peshawar. In Iqbal's story, children were made to believe their freedom was to work very hard and very fast. Work started before dawn, and they worked non-stop till they developed blister on their fingers. They were punished, sometimes put in thumb or change. All they were just to pay their parents' debt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for connecting with us today. It was lovely hearing from all of you. Keep on reading, keep on sharing books, keep on exchanging books with your friends, and we'll see you next time, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.